Next, we have the Internet of Everything, Connected Living and Beyond. And I'm pleased to introduce you to Stephanie Hospital.
And don't worry, I'm not alone. So, we have Sri, Steve, and Tom. We should come on stage. So thanks to the warrior of today, you're still there. So we try to make of this topic a lively topic. It's not about the Internet of Things. It's about the Internet of Everything. So on stage, we have, after the telco wave, we have now the new wave of connected corporation or connected startups. So I'm happy to introduce Sri, who is co-founder of Misfit. We have Steve, also from head of connected living at Dixon's Carphone. Carphone is important. Dixon is still coming from the Carphone. And then we have Tom Guy, who is commercial director of Hive. OK, guys, maybe I will ask this question to Steve. Steve, Internet of Everything. I thought we were speaking about the Internet of Things. Why do we now say that? I mean, everything is connected for you?
I think lots of people have Internet of Things technology in their home without realizing it. Lots of our customers are buying stuff by accident that's connected in their home, and they're getting there at their own speed without realizing it. We are selling connected home platforms, and we're doing well with some of the solutions that are available now. But this is a bit like something like iPlayer. When I was a kid in the playground the next morning, they'd say, what did you watch on TV last night? And there were two choices, Panorama or Star Trek. I was 8, so the answer was relatively obvious. Now there's millions of programs to watch. You can choose when you watch them. Everybody's made that journey all by themselves without too much help from people like us. Now 20 million people use iPlayer every week, and people are using connected home technology right now to control their temperature in Tom's world, or save money, or turn on the Christmas tree lights without too much conscious thought.
So when you look at the figures, it's quite impressive. I mean, 25 billion of devices connected by 2020 everywhere. You know how many devices we have like this in the world? The figures on the stage? How much? How many? 2 billion. Now we have 10 billion of these devices plus the PC, which means that those guys are enabling 25 billion of devices to be connected soon. I mean, don't worry, we don't have 25 million today. We have maybe 4 billion. But I'm very surprised, Tom, to hear your perspective from British Gas. So you're working at British Gas?
So normally start up with Hive is like a startup with a strategic investor, British Gas being the strategic investor. And for anyone who's had to raise money, that normally means that you obviously get the money and a source of distribution. So British Gas give us a source of 11,000 engineers where we can go out to people's homes and talk in the right environment at the right time. It gives us that opportunity. What we've seen we're a product team. That's really what we are, and it's all about just giving something that a customer loves.
So it's really interesting to think that British Gas, the whole British guys, the guys who put the first energy within the home in the UK, are thinking about connected devices, are thinking about the Internet of Everything. But it's not the same place where you're surprised to see that. I mean, Sri, in your experience in the medical healthcare system, I mean, it's huge development in front of you.
Yeah, certainly the work we've done at Misfit is all about health and wellness. So it's preventing disease and preventing illnesses and complications. We can do that by giving feedback to patients or to people before they actually become patients, so to speak. But if you take it one step further, pharmaceutical companies, healthcare providers, having the data going back to them about how a person is responding to their therapies is very, very important. Without that feedback loop, you don't know how a therapy is working. You don't know how individual behavior is being affected. And you can get all that information if you have connected devices that regularly send data back to the people who are interested in looking at it. Otherwise, it's once every quarter you go and do a physical checkup with your doctor, and that's just not enough data.
So in fact, if we take your words, in the healthcare, it's much more efficient than the Apple Watch. I thought, I mean, for me, that Internet of Things was about wearables, connected people with their healthcare system, but apparently it's not the case. I mean, and Steve, I mean, at Dixon's, you see that as only the beginning, no?
Yeah, I think what's interesting is customers are able to interact with personal information when it matters. And so Tom will probably give us some figures about how often people interact with their thermostats, but it's changed by orders of magnitude when you make the controls both relevant and accessible. And we have if you want to buy a mobile phone in the UK, it's really fucking complicated. So there's nearly 1 million combinations and permutations of carrier and device and data, minutes, text, manufacturer, etc. It's very complicated. And we launched a platform in our stores called Pinpoint. We put about 150,000 customer journeys through it a week. And we focus it down on the choice that's right for you. And our aim was to treat you like a grown-up as a customer, to give you the right information in a personal and relevant way so you make a better decision. And I think what we're seeing with devices like Apple Watch and some Internet of Things technologies is the right element of control in customers' hands when they need it. And that's what people like, something personal.
But when we look at this Internet of Everything, I mean, from a consumer perspective, it's super complicated. And why should I put Nest devices in my home? Why for? I mean, and why should then I let you with Hive enter into my home to put some captors? I mean, why for? It's another source of complication for me.
Personally, I obviously wouldn't put Nest in my home, but that's a personal choice. I think, you know,
Why?
Steve's actually absolutely right. What we have to do as product people is make sure that we are building devices that customers absolutely love and they are solving a real problem. You know, Nest did a fantastic job in the US. We're doing a great job here. There's you could list another 10, 15 products that are sitting on Dixon's Carphone shelves, and absolutely at some point that needs to be brought together and explained correctly. As I said, we're doing that in the home through our engineers. You know, in the Dixon's and the Carphone stores is absolutely paramount. That advice really comes through, because I think really at the moment we all know we're in a nascent market. You know, we lead the market in smart thermostats, but it's still a very, very small market, and we need all of the elements to make this something that's actually very exciting.
Yeah, but in the other hand, it's a huge market. I mean, $6 billion USD dollars by 2020 or something like this. I mean, I guess that the analysts are lost because the figures are increasing every day. But do you think, in fact, when I look at Q3, maybe not for Misfit, but when I look at Dixon and British Gas, or Hive, I would say, much more nice as a wording, you seems to be corporation embracing this digital revolution. So it means that IoT, Internet of Everything, finally is in the hands of the Intel, Cisco, Dixon's, British Gas, EDF, or NG, I mean, sorry. So do you think that it's the perfect place for big corporation? How do you deal that, Steve?
I think our customers, in a sense, are pioneers, and they're learning how to make the best out of this. I know that our big corporation is not great at dealing with startups, for example. You know, we're a pretty difficult organization to decode. I go to conferences where people say startups have really got to cowboy up and learn how to deal with large companies. I think it's the other way around. We've got to learn how to think more like a startup and be mentally more agile. But back in the real world, we're dealing with ordinary people, and we sell a few connected thermostats for people who want a new gadget. There's a few Y chromosome owners coming in on a Saturday that want a new shiny thing because Apple or Samsung haven't launched anything. But down the line, people want it because it saves them money, or it's easier, or because their friend explained how simple it was. I give the example of my dad, who's an old geezer. He can barely spell IoT. He's not stupid. And I've been saying to him for a couple of years, you know, you want to get involved with internet banking. It's pretty simple, Dad. They're going to close the branch in your village. And he's like, what the hell are you talking about? I read the Daily Mail. They're going to steal my money. And then I go down a couple of weeks ago, and he says, have you seen this internet banking thing? It's really cool. It's really easy for me to do my banking. And people get there at their own speed, and they need someone to hold their hand. And so we work together. You know, everything's a computer in disguise, right? So for your mom or dad or your aunt or uncle or your, you know, your friends, they need someone to decode that for them. And you know, Tom has a bunch of engineers that go to people's homes. We look after about 8 million households in Dixon's Carphone, helping them with problems that they just don't understand. If you can't get photos from your phone to your TV, is it your phone, is it your TV, is it your Wi-Fi, is it the iCloud Photos service or some other thing? People have no idea, and they just need someone to give them a hand. That's what we're trying to do.
So, Sri, explain us more about Misfit. Misfit? What does it mean? What are you doing?
Sure. Well, the name is taken from the Steve Jobs speech, here's to the misfits, here's to the crazy ones. And the whole idea behind Misfit was kind of playing off of what you were saying, is to make technology accessible and easy to use and simple. So one of the things that we did with our Shine product is we didn't put a display on it. We didn't put a screen on it. Instead, what it does, it just lights up and gives you lights. And so when we first brought that to market, the big question was, is that going to be too simple? And our thesis was, people just want to know, am I exercising enough or not? That's it. They just want to know, is it good or is it bad? Much like you're saying, they don't want too much information. You don't want 50,000 pieces of information that they need to decode through. So our thesis was, hide the technology, make it super simple so that when people use it, they walk away going, wow, this is really cool. How did I ever live without it? And to get people into that zone, you've got to remove the complexity, and you need to give people the one thing that they perceive as valuable. So keep it simple.
Okay. And how it get traction at the moment? How do you get traction?
Yeah. So on the Misfit side, we have a lot of brand partnerships with Speedo, with Swarovski, and so on and so forth. But the real traction comes because we do app updates very frequently. So every time somebody uses the product, we understand their usage patterns. And based on that, we'll introduce new features. So for us, it's really about touching the consumer. And there's no way we would be able to do that if we didn't have the feedback from the user through their usage patterns to know, when do people use the product, how do they use it, and actually where do they wear it. So these are all the different things that we're actually a user of IoT technology as well, because we get the data back from our users. And so that helps us build new features. And so we make IoT products, and we also consume IoT output.
So Steve, I remember Geek Squad. I was really impressed. I remember that because 7 years ago at Orange, we looked at that when I was at Orange and said, wow, those guys have invented the service at home, the real efficiency. And discussing with you when we prepared this panel, I realized that you keep that essence within Dixon's Carphone, and that, by the way, you are applying this service notion, today to the development of your service range into the Internet of Everything, or all the devices. How do you do that? What is your feeling about that?
First of all, everything sounds better when you say it. So I like
Geek Squad.
I like the Hive and the Geek Squad first. So we've got the Geek Squad franchise in Europe, and we have a brand called Know How as well. And it's really about helping people, as we said. I suspect we believe the money in the Internet of Things is not in the things. It's in helping people get the most out of the things. No one's coming into our store saying, I want a 720p camera with a cloud storage mechanism that I can log into on 4G service. They're saying, I want to check if my kids arrived home safe from school. Or I just want to check what the pet's doing, or something like that. And that's what the Geek Squad does and Know How does. And what's interesting is people buy a support package for their phone or for their TV or cooker or fridge. And they like it as a get-out-of-jail card. If something goes wrong, we can help them replace that product or repair or upgrade that product. But actually, the NPS, the customer satisfaction, goes up dramatically if people use tech support. So customers of ours with a smartphone support contract also get Geek Squad tech support. We do 24/7 support. Just for context, a few years ago, 80% of the problems were to do with hardware, 20% with software. Guess what? Now it's exactly the other way around. So you've got a software problem, your mum got a problem with the iOS updates, she calls the Geek Squad. NPS goes up when you use our tech support, and people keep their mobile phone insurance and support package 9 months longer if they use the support. People need people. We're just about helping humans, and that's what the Geek Squad got right. They put a human face on technology support, made it easy.
So I'm a bit skeptical, I have to say, in having all those devices at home, connected devices. I mean, so Tom, how would you pitch me? How do you convince me and the audience here on the benefits of having British guys have Hive Hive coming at home?
Well, thanks for that. Well, I'll actually answer it in a different way. When we started our customer labs, we were told 3 things. One was, I can't control my heating. So I think it's around like 90% of people don't actually set their timer, they just turn the thing on, which leads to the second problem, which is highly wasteful. You're just heating a home when you're not in. And the third thing, which I think we really got right this year, was more around just more around the design. You know, the rest of the home, and you just look around the Dixon stores. There's some beautifully designed products, by some amazing manufacturers, and the thermostat was just forgotten. It was, a white bit of plastic on the wall. So they were the 3 things that we were being told very, loud and clear. And it comes back, and you just using your dad's banking point. As long as you're solving those problems, as long as the customer problems are at the heart of everything within your product, then the product will be a success. And I think that's what we found in the UK. And as I said, and we're just talking about it in the right manner. I think the connected home and IoT has suffered from conversations around connected fridges, ordering your milk, and I've never sat in one customer lab that's ever told me that's a real problem. So I think, again, and you picked up on a couple of others, I want to know when my kids arrive at home, I've got an elderly parent, I want to be able to control their heating. These are real life problems that can be solved through technology. And I think as long as the technology is secondary in terms of how you present that to the customer, I think then that's when you have a successful product.
So this is about product, this is about design, this is about services. But then you're capturing a gigantic amount of data. I mean, now we're inventing new words to speak about the billions of data, the exabytes of data that are captured by Internet of Things. I'd be keen to understand, Steve, what you're doing out of the data. Is Dixon doing anything out of the data, or you keep that for you?
I think we're learning how to look after people better. So the data that we get through the connected sales solution we've got in our stores helps us focus propositions correctly, helps us deliver a quicker solution. What used to take 40 minutes, we now do in under half the time, and get better conversion selfishly and better customer satisfaction, I guess altruistically. I think it's a bit difficult wrangling the data for connected home at the moment, partly because we don't share a common vocabulary set. Mm-hmm. So in the generality of businesses you see downstairs, everyone understands what like means or pay means. In the connected home, I don't think we've agreed yet what home or away or room or zone means, and we need to work better as an industry to sort that out. I think once we do that, we can do some interesting things with the data in a way that customers will trust.
Okay, interesting. So when we're speaking about data, we're speaking about analysis, but also prediction. So 3, for medicine, healthcare, it's particularly efficient to things that tomorrow we can use and leverage all those data.
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest opportunities that exists is taking smart home technologies and applying them, the same technologies, but applying them to healthcare in the home. Because now what's happening is there's so much money being spent on elder care and chronic care that you can't have people in hospital and in the clinics all the time. 99.9% of healthcare happens at home. So you already have the infrastructure being built. You have temperature sensors, you have thermostats, you have light sensors, you have humidity sensors, you have sleep sensors, you have all of these devices that are now being marketed as consumer-grade products for the smart home. But you can take those same products and then repurpose them for healthcare at home. Because as an example, if you can predict, or if you can figure out when does somebody make themselves a warm meal, which you can do by measuring how often a fridge opens and what the temperature of the kitchen is like, and if they're correlated, they know they're probably cooking dinner. Why this is important is if there's somebody has a chronic condition, or for example, if somebody is depressed, it's very useful to know, are they making themselves a warm meal at night? Because these behavioral issues, these behavioral observations, often are precursors and leading indicators to more costly complications. So if you can intervene and fix those before they become major problems, that's a huge savings for the healthcare industry.
Just to add to that, we've been doing some work with a company called Tunstall, who are an amazing elderly monitoring company in the UK and elsewhere. They've got about 2 million elder patients that they look after, not patients, just people living independently at home. You've probably seen the red string hanging from the ceiling in a relative's flat or apartment or something. And I've done listening at their contact centres, and they have calls varying from help, I'm dying, to is it lunchtime yet? And my guess is technology can play a part in directing those calls to the right people and provide a more efficient solution.
So, coming back to the industry that will be disrupted by IoT, what is your bet, Tom? Because if British Gas is able to embrace IoT, I mean, like you're doing with this startup, very innovative startup approach, don't see that many utility and energy company are able to do that. I mean, what are for you the next big industry to be disrupted by IoT, by Internet of Everything?
So I think, we were talking about it before. I think there's a massive one around elder care and carers. I think as we're an aging population, there are millions of carers out there that don't even classify themselves as carers, where they're just looking after elderly parents. I just think some very, very simple technology to let me know that my elderly mum and dad are up, out of bed, purely because of the fact they've put the kettle on and they've broken one sensor. That's not really a big technology play, but a huge burden lifted from people that have to do that type of role. So I think that's huge. Look, we have a huge, busy 2016 product roadmap. Each one of those products, we hope, solves a problem that customers have told us at some point, and will be presented extremely well in a Dixon's Carphone store.
Cool. Sri, I'm dreaming of having some wearable transplanted into my skin, because I have to say I don't like my Apple Watch. It's too big. I would love to just have the sensors. Is it a dream? Can I have that soon?
We've actually had those types of devices for a couple of decades now. My early career was in diabetes, and if you look at insulin pumps and continuous glucose sensors, those are subcutaneous. So there are sensors and devices that are implanted under the skin that you can implant yourself at home, and they've been in the market for a couple of decades. So it already exists. It just didn't have the name IoT. So technology's there. We just have to understand how to look at these.
Okay, so it's I can see all the evolution on the healthcare and the industry. Coming back to the home and connected home, Steve, what are your predictions for Christmas? Which are the devices you think, or the services that you will be serving a lot at Dixon's?
I'll sit next to you.
I think we're obviously doing very well in
no marketing.
thermostat. We're independent and sort of range of connected thermostats. Wearables were super successful last Christmas. We're seeing, I think, entertainment. So you might have Sonos or something like that at home. No one's coming in asking for a multi-room audio system. What they're saying is, I want to listen to Rachmaninoff in the kitchen and the Ramones in the drawing room or the sitting room or whatever. People will come up with a simple entertainment play, I think, both for video and audio this Christmas that's working for people. And we're seeing a lot of connected security products, home monitoring as we've described. So that simple camera, is my pet okay, or are my kids home, is doing terribly well at the moment.
So maybe a last question for Sri. Any advice for a startup willing to disrupt a big industrial sector which is not disrupted at all?
Oh, advice for startups trying to disrupt a big industry. I mean, the simplest thing is to start with a very, very focused problem that you know you can generate revenue from. And the reason I say this is if the market is really big, like my background being in pharmaceuticals, there's a lot of money to be made there, but you're not going to be able to sell a platform. You need to sell a product, a solution, go in there, make that wedge, and once you have one product that is gaining traction, then you can make a platform that then disrupts the industry. But going in there with a platform you're not going to disrupt an industry that way, not without a lot of funding. But one focus product can absolutely disrupt an industry.
Maybe Steve or Tom, you want to add something on that? We have a lot of startups here on the IoT.
I think, as we always say, we are a startup within a big organization. Don't act like one. I think absolutely you've got to be focused on the problem. I think, there's always the case of it's passion, it's the right product people. In our set as well, there's a huge part around design, and it's hard to get all of those pieces right.
I'd say don't assume too much enthusiasm on the part of your consumers. Nobody's short of things to do, so make sure it's blindingly simple and it works all the way through. So for Tom, Reg and Ron installing boilers weren't naturally great at setting up port forwarding or making your Wi-Fi talk to your phone, talk to your control system. They've solved that now from A to Z, and that's made it successful. So think about it all the way through for regular human beings.
So maybe a last word for all of you, in 1 word, 2 words, your feedback on this session? It's the tricky questions. No?
1 word and what?
1 word about Internet of Everything.
I think it's not guaranteed. I think we've got to work hard on it.
I'd say it's already here. You're not going to realize that until it really matters to you.
I'll say there's a lot more that can be invented, so there's room for a great many more startups out there.
So thanks a lot. A big applause for our panel. So Sri, Steve, and Tom.